thank you so much for coming to this evening's Writer's Block program with New York Attorney General Letitia James and Brian. Founder of Writer's Block, now in our 30th season. Thank you. Before I get to tonight's superstars, I want to thank Black women lawyers who are so gracious to us. And to my friends here at the Ebell. The Ebell is a membership organization that's over 100 years old and was built by women for women. It offers terrific programs for rich from arts and cultures to parties with good cocktails. They welcome your membership. And on another note, this is my very abbreviated behave speech because I know many of you here in the audience, and I know you're going to behave. So no disruptions permitted. Yes, we appreciate free speech, but not tonight. If anyone makes our guests or speakers feel uncomfortable, they will be removed. There are so many security guys here tonight. Be wary, okay? Now for tonight. Timing is everything, folks. It is for us to listen to Brian Tyler Cohen, one of our princes of new media. Chat with Attorney General Tish James about what she goes through being in the crosshairs of the president, that she takes so much real estate in the president's brain is to her credit. But we don't want that to define her. Her accomplishments as New York's top lawyer are legion. She fights corruption on every level. She's outspoken on major issues such as sensible gun safety, women's reproductive health, the opioid crisis, and more. Brian Tyler Cohen is a podcast, Substack, and YouTube host whose platforms attract millions of viewers and readers. There's a reason for that. His interviews with the Democratic thought leaders of the moment are not just feathery softballs. He's a challenging, brilliant, and hell of a great writer. He's the author of the best-selling book, Shameless: Republicans' Deliberate Dysfunction and the Battle to Save Democracy. So, here's what's going to happen tonight. After Tish and Brian come on stage, you can take pictures for like 20 seconds, and then you put your phones away because if you don't want texting or talking during the program, and they'll chat. And they've incorporated, Brian has incorporated some of your questions into his discussion. So thank you so much. Please welcome Attorney General Tish James and Brian Tyler.
Don't want to behave, it's okay because I'll yell back.
So I'm looking at a headline right here from today. Grand jury declines. I would be a fool first and foremost not to ask for your reaction to that news.
It's not over. So we can celebrate the moment, but they're not finished. As you all know, this is nothing more than a continuation of the retribution and the weaponization of the justice system. But we cannot be fearful at this moment. We've got to be fearless. And so I'm not celebrating this no true bill. I'm going to continue to do my work and who someone's phone is on. And I'm going to continue to stand up for the rule of law and continue to do my job in the great state of New York. So I thank you so much.
Well, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but that wasn't the only case involving you that took place today. Up in Albany, New York, there was another case where one of Donald Trump's U.S. attorneys tried to push forward some more prosecution against you. The judge in that case got all the information she needs to be able to disqualify that U.S. attorney. If that happens, that would be the 5th U.S. attorney that's disqualified that was put forward by Donald Trump, and the 2nd that was disqualified trying to prosecute you. So I guess the question becomes, why aren't there any legitimate prosecutors, legitimate prosecutors who are willing to put their name on an indictment?
Let's break that question down. What you're saying is, why aren't you being prosecuted by someone who's legitimate? The case that you are referring to in Albany is not a prosecution. It's not a criminal case. It's a civil case. And the reason why they brought that case is because Donald Trump is arguing that I violated his civil rights. So they issued subpoenas in 2 cases. The case that I was successful, that we won against the NRA, and also the case against Donald Trump et al. And so what they're seeking is our work product. And what happened today was we argued, one, that they're not entitled. We're seeking to basically quash the subpoenas, and also we're challenging the appointment of Mr. Sarkozy, arguing that he is his appointment was illegal and unlawful, consistent with the other 5. So the judge has all the information, and we're confident that he will be disqualified. And when he's disqualified, the subpoenas are no more.
What clear about these cases, these civil cases against you, these criminal prosecutions against you, and I think that most of us in this room, if we were in your shoes, it would weigh so heavily. I mean, I don't know how many people have been involved in a lawsuit, but I imagine it's all consuming. And so, when you're involved in not just one, but so deeply in the crosshairs of the most powerful person in the world, how does that weigh on you?
So let me just say that everyone focuses on the case involving Mr. Trump and the NRA. But I want all of you to know I don't spend most of my time focused on President Trump. The vast majority of my time is focused on tenants' rights, consumer rights, investor protection, environmental issues, reproductive rights, to standing up and defending the rights of the LGBTQ community, particularly the trans community right now that are under attack. They're being scapegoated. Focusing on issues, again, that affect the pocketbook issues. Affordability at this point in time, which I don't believe is a con, Mr. President. I believe affordability is a real issue. People are struggling right now making ends meet. The vast majority of my time is focused on all those cases. Focusing on, we were just recently given the ability to look at voting rights in the state of New York. Following Shelby, now the state of New York, whenever there is a change with respect to the election process, it is subject to review by the Office of the Attorney General. We also have a new statute where, unfortunately, whenever there is a police-involved shooting which results in the death of a civilian, it's the Office of the Attorney General that reviews that to determine whether or not we prosecute that law enforcement officer. So it's all of that and more. So we do have a federal initiatives team that I organized and created as a result of the Trump administration, but the vast majority of my time is defending New York State, protecting them from harms from Washington, D.C., particularly at a time when Washington, D.C. is engaged in retrenchment, recognizing and respecting and defending the sovereign rights of the state of New York, and working with my colleagues across the aisle, including your great Attorney General, Rob Bonta.
This era has shown us, I think, two different sets of people. It's shown us people who are willing to fight and people who are perfectly content to capitulate. And we have seen that take place at the hands of law firms, universities, media outlets, tech CEOs, businesses, whatever it may be. When you were watching the Trump administration consolidate power for the second time, was there some calculation that you made that you were going to take a forward-leaning posture, in light of what would be a raft of rampant corruption?
I was involved in the first Trump administration. And as you know, it was New York and California. We were the two bookends, and we led most of the litigation. Then it was the Attorney General Becerra. And he and I worked on a wide range of cases. And we won, of the 100 cases that we filed, I would say maybe 70 to 80% of the cases against the Trump administration. They were less organized then. They didn't have as many attorneys as they have now. It wasn't a coordinated effort, and it wasn't done with the Federalist Society and with Project 2025. There wasn't a playbook. Trump 2, what we decided was to organize the Democratic Attorneys General, again, now Rob Bonter, and there's 23 Democratic Attorneys General. We decided to organize, we decided to put some structure into our organization, our coalition. We meet at least 3 times a week. We talk about Project 2025. We talk about venue, jurisdiction, strategy, litigation. We assign lawsuits. I even take some of the attorneys in New York, because I'm blessed to have so many attorneys, and provide assistance to smaller states, so that smaller states can now lead, so that it's just not New York and California, so that all of us can stand up together at a time when we are not the face of the resistance, but resisting nonetheless. And that's what we have done. Now, and we have been successful, and I can run off all of the cases, but the cases that most of you know, birthright citizenship, which was not decided on the merits yet, it was decided on remedies. It basically said we can no longer issue nationwide injunctions. So birthright citizenship still stands. The issue, NIH, National Institute of Health, institutes that are doing research to cure cancer, heart disease, and Parkinson's, that they want to basically disband. The education stabilization, the education department, funds for the LGBTQ community, funds for victims of domestic violence, reproductive rights, Planned Parenthood. There's about 50 categories. And most of the executive orders, which are illegal, unconstitutional, do not have the force of law, were not supported by Congress, not even approved by Congress. But Congress is asleep at the switch, as you know, they're neutered. He issues these executive orders, and basically what he says to California and to blue states is, we want your data. We want your Medicaid data. We want your SNAP data. We want your environment. We want all of your data. Why? Because they want to see whether or not, in fact, we are funding undocumented immigrants, whether or not there's DEI in any of our policies, or 3, whether or not it's supporting the LGBTQ community. Policies that are inconsistent with the Trump administration. That's what they want. And what we say to them is, hell no.
I think the thing that's most striking is I'm putting myself in the position of somebody who would be in the crosshairs of the most powerful person in the world, and kind of imbuing how I would feel onto you. But I think,
can I push back? He's not the most powerful person in the world. He's just not. We got to push back on that, this notion that he's all powerful. The fact is that we're powerful. We're powerful. Sorry, Brian, I know this is your show, but...
Well, so that's the thing. Like the sense that I'm getting is that, in fact, the farthest thing that we're looking at here is that you're afraid of him, and in fact, the reason that there's so much attention on you is because he's afraid of you. And so, I guess the question would be, with New York real estate prices so high, how did you score such a good deal with rent-free housing in Donald Trump's head? What a coup. How many lawsuits have you brought, either solely or with other attorneys general against this administration?
So right now, I think we're at 40 collectively. And there's some that, some AGs, for whatever reason, have not joined some of the lawsuits. So it depends, but I think in total it's around 40. But the cases affect every aspect of your life. Every aspect of your life. And the cases that break my heart the most, everyone is focused obviously on the decision that came out today with regards to the grand jury, and I thank you for that. I really didn't focus on it today. I thought about the 7-year-old child whose mother was detained and who has no idea where his mom is. I'm concerned about the raid that happened in Jackson Heights, Queens today, where they came in and they removed some individuals. I'm concerned about what happens at 26 Federal Plaza on the 10th floor, where they won't allow individuals to go in and inspect. 26 Federal Plaza is our ICE office and where individuals go in to have hearings. I'm concerned about people who are disappearing each and every day. About my neighbor who falls in my arms and cries and says, Tish, I'm afraid to go to school, afraid to take my children to school, afraid to go to my house of faith. That's what I'm more concerned about. I'm gonna be okay. I've got an army of lawyers. It's the individuals without lawyers. It's the individuals whose names you don't know, but who serve you each and every day. Individuals who are part of our economy, who keep our economy going. Individuals who want the same thing that you and I want, and that is to raise their children in a safe community. It's people like that I care about. That's where there's this fire in my belly. I don't give a shit about, I don't care about me. I care less about me. I'm gonna be okay. I care about the people who are in the crosshairs of this administration that are engaging in terrorism. That's what they're doing. They're cruel. And cruelty is the point. They want you to be afraid. They want you to think that they're all powerful. But I saw 7 million people on No King's Day. That inspired me. 7 million people. When Jimmy Kimmel, when they tried to take down Jimmy, how many people stood up? Right? In Sackett's Harbor in upstate New York, in my beloved New York, a red district, I think I got 1 vote. This little farm called Old McDonald's Farm, they went in, and these individuals who, provide food for all the individuals in upstate New York, they raided the farm and they took all of these lovely individuals. Well, the next day they discovered that Tom Honan had a summer home in Sackett's Harbor. And all of those Republicans who didn't vote for Tish James, they protested in front of Tom's home. And guess what? All of those individuals were released, and they invited Tish James to come and speak. Can you believe that? You gotta hold on to that. You got to hold on to Virginia. You got to hold on to New Jersey. You got to hold on to what happened in Tennessee. That's what gives me hope each and every day. I am drunk on hope, and I don't drink. So, that's it.
I should also note, adding on to that, we did see somewhere between, depending on the state, New Jersey, Virginia, California, between 7 and 12% of Trump 2024 voters vote for Democratic candidates or the Prop 50 ballot. So, whereas we're led to believe that there is a ever-shrinking slice of people who are still gettable, there's a much bigger slice of people who are gettable right now, and we're seeing that even those people who cast a ballot for Donald Trump in 2024, knowing everything they knew about this guy, knowing what a piece of shit he is after the last decade of him being in the news every single day, for them to come forward and cast ballots for Democrats shows the extent to which there is still that they are still gettable, they are still persuadable in this environment.
And the news, there was a lot of news about me, but the news should be about releasing the Epstein files, right? The news should be about Pete Hegseth and what he did. Hegseth and what he did. That's what we should focus on. The news should be about the fact that they're bombing boats in Venezuela. That's what, the news should be about the fact that he thinks affordability is a con. The news should be about the immigrants. The news should be about our environment. The news should be about the war on women. The fact that he has fired so many women, the fact that he's calling women pigs and telling them to shut up. And the fact that he wants to take away our reproductive care. That's what the news should be. Let's focus on all of these issues, and let's talk to people who we may disagree with, people who did not vote for this chaos, confusion, this graft, this greed, people who, you know, at one point supported Trump, but who recognize that tariffs is now hurting them in the pocketbook. Let's talk to them, and let's find common ground. And when we do that, we can take back this country. We can believe in freedom. We can believe in democracy. We can believe in the rule of law. We can believe that diversity, yes, is our strength, and that you're my neighbor, I'm your neighbor, and we respect one another. And we can live in a country and a society where we all believe in the values upon which it was built.
4 more years, 4 more years. All right, so I do want to talk about one of those instances of the dysfunction and the chaos that are being done purposefully, and that is with these ICE raids that are happening across your state, happening across the country. You've created a website where folks can submit videos documenting abuses by ICE, a portal documenting abuses by ICE. Have people been submitting, and what happens with those in the aftermath of all of this?
So there was a raid the other day in Chinatown, and it was, okay, I'm sure a lot of you go to Chinatown in Manhattan and you get knockoffs, you know. You think you're getting the, you know, you want to get the real thing, but they're knockoffs. I mean, they're $29, come on.
Are you saying the Gucci wallet that I just bought for $19?
No, it's not
you?
Gucci, it's Uchi. It's yeah. So these National Guard, since when are they responsible for policing knockoffs? I mean, like, that's the responsibility and the duties of NYPD. And we've got, you know, no offense, California, but NYPD is, you know, a pretty good police force. So, like, why were you policing the knockoffs? But, you know, people saw ICE go into a garage on Broadway, and they were like, why are all these ICE trucks showing up? They're about to begin an operation. And it went on social media like wildfire. And people showed up and stood in front of the garage so that the trucks couldn't come out. And they stopped this raid. And they went to New Jersey.
Look, as I'm a born and bred New Jerseyan, so I will not have any of this up on this stage.
But that's what happened, because people cared about their neighbor, and they came out. So yes, I have a portal, and so individuals uploaded video, and what we're looking to do is to see whether or not, one, there's any cooperation between law enforcement and ICE. You know, we're a sanctuary city. You're not supposed to, the law says that there's no cooperation. Two, we wanted to see whether or not they were violating the civil and human rights of any individuals. And we've done it on a number of occasions. We did it following a number of protests in the past, and that's the reason why we're asking individuals to send us videos.
You know, the videos that we've seen, for example, of folks who are blocking those ICE vehicles, what is that? What's your reaction to seeing instances like that? Because that's not the only one that we've seen, and it's especially from New York, where people just are not willing to take that shit from ICE. I mean, it is New York to a T. Every single time I see a video from Manhattan where these ICE
Come on,
agents try to come in.
California. Come on, really?
Look, the weather's a little warmer here.
Or New Jersey.
Weather's a little bit warmer here. We're a little bit softer here, you know?
Everyone must follow the law. I don't want anyone to violate the law. At the same time, I think about the civil rights movement when individuals engaged in civil disobedience. And so if some consider this civil disobedience, that'll be determined by a judge in a court of law. That's it.
So Trump's DOJ has threatened to prosecute local officials who bring cases against federal agents. And so what can local officials do to bring accountability for these abuses that we're seeing at the hands of ICE?
So that's more challenging because, there's immunity, sovereign immunity, and so it's difficult to bring damages against ICE officials. Now, with the midterms coming up, and hopefully we can get the House back, I'm pretty much confident that we're going to get the House back. We're going to have to do a lot of homework. We need to look at pardons, because there's been abuse of pardons. We need to look at the United States Supreme Court. We need to look at this whole issue of sovereign immunity, particularly when it's intentional and cruel and all of that. We need to look at all of the regs that they've, pulled back. We need to write our own, and I don't want to call it a Project 2025, but we need to write our own booklet. So how do we, the day after, if you will, what we can do collectively to return to normalcy. Given all of the damage and destruction that they've engaged in, what can we do to reverse all of that? Where do we begin? And the Democratic Attorneys General are already looking at that. And we're not doing it alone. There's other attorneys and organizations that are very much involved. But let me also go on to say that a number of organizations have been training people. So there's organizations in the city that put on training every weekend, Know Your Rights training. There's individuals on what we can do to assist undocumented immigrants. There's trainings on what we can do in response to an ICE raid. And thousands of people show up to some of these trainings, and our office is involved in those trainings as well.
I would like to get some specifics on what you think some of these reforms could be, because the problem that could be posed is that we say, okay, Trump's out of office, now we can finally go back to normal. And I think that we're in a world where the status quo, we know, doesn't work for too many people. Both regular Americans who feel like the system has forgotten them, but also we've seen the extent to which this system doesn't even hold up against the abuses of someone who seeks to abuse it in the way that Donald Trump has. And so it's not going to work to go back to this thing when we've seen that Americans are not happy with it and the politicians who want to abuse it can abuse it. And so what are some of these reforms that you're talking about?
So for instance, on the issue of pardons, there needs to be checks and balances. He can just not issue pardons, by himself, alone. And the pardons are primarily based on, whether or not you have deep pockets, whether or not you're MAGA, whether or not you were part of January 6th, whether or not you were an elected official who engaged in fraud. There's a lot of it is white collar crimes, and it's sort of consistent with some of the behavior that he's engaged in. And what's so sad about the whole situation is individuals who have been defrauded by crypto, have been defrauded by investors, these pardons will not allow victims to ever get any restitution. None. They will not get any money back. And so we need to do an analysis of all of these areas of pardons, of the Supreme Court. Should there be term limits on the Supreme Court? Should we expand the number of justices? Should they be subject to ethics? The list goes on. So all of these things and more we need to analyze going forward. Can you just fire, we need to provide protections to individuals who are members of unions. We need to strengthen that. I am a big union person, and the fact that he could go in and fire all of these people, the Civil Rights Unit of the Department of Justice was created in the Civil Rights Movement, and it was created primarily to protect marginalized and vulnerable populations. And now it's the reverse. So there's a number of recommendations, And I think we are beginning to talk about that with other organizations, with Mark Elias, and with others. Yeah, Mark is great. But with other organizations, what we can do the day after, how we can repair the breach, how can we return to normalcy, what can we do to strengthen our laws, what guardrails can we put around unfortunately, the president who has too much power, and a Congress which unfortunately has done absolutely nothing.
Let's say the Supreme Court was expanded, Letitia James, and the next Democratic president was interested in finding people who might be good candidates for to be a justice for the U.S. Supreme Court. Would you take the job?
No, it's
Wouldn't?
too sedentary. No, don't put me behind a desk. When I graduated from law school, when I was in law school, I worked for a law firm, and I said, well, maybe I'll be a corporate attorney. You got to pay back student loans. I was organizing the cafeteria workers. So that didn't work, and I was really bored writing briefs. I was like, this is just not me. And so I wanted to be in the courtroom, and so I was a public defender, and I found my love. And that just went from here. And then I worked in Central Brooklyn at a time when Central Brooklyn was trying to create political power in communities of color. And then I ran for office because I was speaking to residents of public housing who had been ignored for far too long. And I knocked on a lot of their doors and spoke to them. And they just said, we need someone, obviously, to represent the interests of low-income families and people from public housing who oftentimes are locked out of the sunshine of opportunity. And I stepped up and said, I want to do just that.
You had been speaking about a lot of the overt corruption that we're seeing, and I think there's some evidence, or we've had a lot of evidence of that in terms of these instances of stock market manipulation where all of a sudden, somebody buys X amount of millions of dollars in stock, pump and dumps, X amount of millions of dollars in stocks. 5 minutes later, Donald Trump, comes out, makes some announcement, and that stock surges. Or the opposite, sells some stock right before it plummets. And so with the New York Stock Exchange, obviously in your jurisdiction, is that going to be something that you have jurisdiction over? And, obviously within the confines of what you can say in public, is this something that might be ripe for an investigation?
We have jurisdiction. We have a statute which is called the Martin Act, and we police the marketplace. In fact, Eliot Spitzer, my predecessor, was once known as the police officer of Wall Street. And he brought a lot of cases against individuals on Wall Street. We have brought quite a few, particularly in the investor protection unit, and particularly for individuals who are selling investments which they claim are backed by money. And then when individuals seek to withdraw funds, they realize that actually there's no money behind it at all. And what we are seeing more and more is that individuals are preying upon in certain affinity groups. We have an investigation currently into the Haitian community where an individual was selling crypto memes into the Haitian community. And then the Haitian community wanted to cash out. There was nothing there. The Jewish community, we have another investigation where an individual was focusing on the Jewish community. And that's pending. Again, Wall Street has been our focus. It continues to be our focus. As I mentioned, all the attention has been on Trump, ignoring the fact that each and every day we do Martin violations, we do environmental cases, we do reproductive rights cases, we do a lot of consumer rights cases, a lot of reproductive rights cases. There's a case where we are defending a doctor in upstate New York who offered mifepristone, medical abortion pills to individuals in Texas and in Louisiana. Well, she was indicted in absentia in Texas and in Louisiana. And so what the Attorney General of Texas and the Attorney General of Louisiana has done, they're seeking her extradition. And we're protecting her. And so The clerk where she lives refused to file the extradition warrant. And so now they're suing the clerk, and we're defending the clerk. And we're protecting this doctor from harm. That doesn't get a lot of attention because everybody is focused on Mr. You-know-who. This is what I do every day. Tenants' rights, rent-stabilized apartments, where landlords go in, raise the rents, and try to evict individuals. Deed theft, which is happening in communities of color, particularly in gentrifying communities. Individuals who are cash poor and equity rich. People are going into these communities and stealing their brownstones. Brownstones that are now worth $3 and $4 million because of gentrification. That is big in Brooklyn, big in the city, big in Buffalo, big in Syracuse. Working with the district attorney of Brooklyn, he just convicted someone who stole over 100 homes in central Brooklyn. And now we're trying to figure out all the deeds and who's the rightful owners. That doesn't get a lot of attention. That's where I focus most of my attention on. People want to, I don't really want to talk about Trump too much, you know? Like, I rent...
Now you tell me.
I rent space in his brain, but there are other matters and concerns, and that's where I spend most of my time. And again, working with the Democratic Attorneys General and meeting with them on a weekly basis. Our cases are filed and then they're pending, but at the same time, I've got to talk about immigrants whose rights are being violated. I have to stand with them and protect them. My job is to protect New Yorkers from harm. My job is to step in the vacuum of during a time when the federal government has engaged in a retreat. And so we do civil rights, we do human rights, we do environmental rights, we do consumer rights. We are now CFPB, we are now FTC, we are now DOJ, only on a state level. And it's unfortunate that you have laws that are different from state to state, a patchwork, because we have a federal government which unfortunately is not working for the general good. And that should not be the case. So I am waiting to return to normalcy, and we're returning to a day when we've got a federal government that believes in dual sovereignty. They respect the rights of states, and we respect the right of the federal government. Until such time as we return to that, I'm going to stand up and defend New Yorkers each and every time. And if you benefit, so be it.
Looking forward, as we consider this idea of returning to normalcy, or whatever the new normal looks like as we head toward 2026, 2028, 2029, and forward, I think there was a sense that we wanted a return to normalcy. And when Joe Biden won the election in 2020, he nominated Merrick Garland as the Attorney General. How do you view that role? What that role needs to look like in light of I can speak personally, I know I can speak for some folks in here, was an unwillingness to actually meet the moment with the urgency that it deserves, an unwillingness to fight, to put politics aside, put the optics of politicization aside, and actually do what needs to be done, regardless of whether or not it looks like you're going after somebody from the opposite party, even if that prosecution or going after them was completely warranted.
Because it's supposed to be an independent office. Right. It's not supposed to be the law firm of Donald Trump. And unfortunately, this DOJ is serving at the pleasure of Donald Trump. And so whenever he says jump, they say how high.
Some of these people were literally his personal defense attorneys.
Literally. And some of them I met in court. And like, for instance, he pardoned the former president of Honduras. He's a drug kingpin. And he talks about how he wants to stop all these drugs from coming into our country. He was like one of the largest drug pins, and you just pardoned him. And what the hell have you done with regards to fentanyl? What have you done on opioids? What have you done on xylazine? Nothing. And let's be honest, does cocaine really come from Venezuela? Or does it come from Colombia? So the point, so, okay, states' rights. I filed the largest and most extensive lawsuit against Purdue and opioid manufacturers and distributors in this country. Secured millions of dollars to address the opioid crisis in New York. And then other attorneys general, actually was bipartisan. We shut down Purdue. Now, some people said, you guys didn't go far enough, you should have prosecuted criminally, you know, the family. That, we can talk about that. But we did opioids. I am focusing now, working with my criminal division, removing illegal guns off of our street. As of today, I have removed, working with my office, over 8,000 illegal guns, including ghost guns. We have engaged in takedowns of people who were basically trafficking cocaine and fentanyl and xylazine. What is xylazine? Xylazine is an animal tranquilizer that people are using now. And it causes holes in your skin. And I learned about it from medical doctors who said, Tish, we don't know how to treat these sores. And I said, well, what is causing them? He said, people are injecting animal tranquilizers. And so we're focused on that as well, educating young people about the dangers of drugs, and working with my detectives and working with my criminal division to try to shut these operations down all over the state of New York, and working in coalition with the FBI and all of these other agencies. But they're primarily focused on taking this 7-year-old, his mom, and detaining her, as opposed to drug trafficking, human trafficking, financial frauds, etc. Retail theft. Aren't you tired of not being able to get toothpaste? You gotta call the clerk.
What can you do about getting the deodorant out from behind the glass? We're just trying to get deodorant here.
I'm trying to get toothpaste. But if we had task force, as we did, you know, we could work together on a lot of these issues, pocketbook issues. We can work on, you know, tariffs. We can work on economic issues. We can work on, how about this? Hospitals that are merging. Hospital billing. Consolidations. Price gouging. I was in Syracuse last week. We filed a lawsuit against someone who manufactured the baby formula. During the pandemic, the one manufacturer of baby formula unfortunately closed. And so individuals took advantage of it and raised the price of baby formula. So we sued, and we were able to get a judgment. And so I said, I don't want, you know, the state doesn't need the money. I want baby formula. 100,000 cans of baby formula. We distributed all throughout the state of New York to food pantries, to low-income communities, and they distributed it. We've sued the largest egg manufacturer. Next, I'm looking at meat.
No one's safe.
It's about bringing the cost of living down and letting people know, you know, that as the Democratic Attorney General, you have tools to do this. And primarily it relies on your consumer law, your UDAP laws, you know, your antitrust laws, your deceptive business, UDAP, your deceptive business practices. All of these laws can be used to address a lot of these issues that New Yorkers are struggling with. The rent is too damn high, so are mortgages. So all of these issues, again, if we can get back to normalcy, we can focus on these issues, as opposed to, you know, deregulation and unfortunately the market just running amok. That's what we do, but we don't get a lot of attention because everybody wants to talk about Trump.
Well, I have a question about housing, because that's been a particular focus of especially young people, especially folks here in Los Angeles, especially folks in your state of New York, and in Manhattan in particular. we hear about a lot of these abuses, and it's hard to parse what's true, what's not true, what's legal, what's not legal in terms of who's buying up these properties. Are speculators buying up these properties? Are investment banks or hedge funds buying up these properties? Is this legal if they're doing it? Can you shed a little bit of light on this?
So private equity companies are purchasing 1 and 2 family homes. That's real. And so we are beginning to look at it, particularly in upstate New York. And they're raising the price of these homes. We're also looking at manufactured homes. Because in the state of New York, in upstate New York, a lot of the rent regulations for the city of New York don't apply to the residents in upstate New York. So I'm organizing manufactured homes in upstate New York, and we'll be hosting a convention, if you will, to talk about the state of the law with regards to manufactured homes and whether or not they should be protected under our rent stabilization law or any other law. So there are individuals who are going and purchasing 1 and 2 family homes, not only in New York, but particularly in the southern states, and in red states in particular. And so another bipartisan issue, working with my Republican colleagues, we're beginning to look at that. That is a bipartisan issue because it's happening a lot in the South in their states. We're also looking at algorithm pricing, right? People, raise prices based upon your buying habits. In the state of New York, we banned cell phones in schools. And those addictive algorithms, under my leadership, we negotiated a piece of legislation where we turn off these addictive algorithms after 11 o'clock so that children can sleep and go to school. We are protecting the privacy under COPA for children because they're taking the privacy of young people and basically selling it in violation of the law. So, social media in general is a major issue because social media, where we need to talk about misinformation, disinformation that we are trying to focus on, and a lot of the hate that's on social media. They hide behind this statute called Section 230. Forget it, but they do. We just sued Google recently. We sued Google because of their App Store. They took advantage of their App Store where competitors, they would not allow their competitors to allow individuals to go to their competitors' App Store. And we got a settlement, and just yesterday I sent a notice to individuals in the state of New York that if you were a victim of this, you can get some relief, you can get some money, just contact our office. So it's things like that. It's price gouging, it's social media, it's in the tech space, it's investor protection, it's consumer fraud, it's the health space, particularly looking at the consolidation of hospitals. Mental health is a major issue, major issue. One of the unfortunate, I have to look at all of these cameras, these videos. When I was in the city council, I was the first council member to call for body-worn cameras for law enforcement. And now we have it all throughout the city of New York for NYPD. But now, because I have to examine police-related deaths, civilians as a result of police interaction, I have to look at these videos when officers shoot civilians. And I would say 60% of the videos involve individuals who are in the throes of mental illness, and they're shot. And part of it is because police are not equipped to deal with individuals who are struggling with mental illness. That's not their job. And so when there's a case that I just released, an announcement that I released today involving a young man, his name was Win Rosario. He had scissors, and someone called the police, I believe it was his brother, saying, please, my brother is out of control, come police. The police came, they were told he was on drugs. He picked up scissors, he ran towards the police. His mom grabbed him, knocked him to the floor, took the scissors. She was crying, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. The police were basically saying, Mom, get out of the way. She put the scissors on a chair. And then when she moved away, he picked up the scissors and went towards the police and they shot him. And he died. And they shot him 5 times. The question for me is, are you going to prosecute these police? And I issued a statement today saying, based on the law, no. And we had a meeting with the family, and it was rough. Where you had a mom said, I called the police to help us. He was mentally ill. But when police, face these situations and they face danger and their life is in danger, they shoot. Oh, I forgot to mention they tried to tase him and the tasers didn't work. He pulled the prongs out. Those are the rough cases that I have to deal with. And again, maybe 50, 60% of the cases involve individuals in the throes of mental illness. And usually it's a mom who calls. And we have to give individuals, we need mental health experts to pair with police. We need to give individuals who are struggling with mental illness space and time. And we need to involve family. And that's why the mayor-elect, Zoran Mandani, has come forward with a policy to create another agency to address just that. But that case, which unfortunately was shadowed by all the news of this no indictment, was a very sad case, very, very sad case. And a family now weeps over the loss of their son who was in his 20s.
While we watch you deal with everything, whether it's with the administration, whether it's with your job on a daily basis, and especially in light of the fact that ICE is now, if given the amount of funding ICE has, it would be one of the largest militaries in the entire world. Where do you draw any faith from working in a job like yours, where it feels scientifically engineered to wear you down? I mean, I know what I do on a daily basis. I've done political commentary online for the better part of a decade now. I used to be really good at compartmentalizing, and I would do my work, shut my computer, and then go home and lead a normal life. And over the years, it kind of bleeds in more and more and more. And it doesn't help that it doesn't help this motherfucker never falls asleep. So like he is. I mean,
Fall asleep. He falls asleep at meetings.
At meetings, yeah. But I'll tell you what. First of all, it doesn't help that we live in Los Angeles, and by the time I crack open my eyes at maybe 7:30 in the morning, we're like, God knows who he's declared war on. And 10 o'clock at night, he's farting out Truth Social posts all night. So I know that the extent to which this bleeds into my life. I'm sure everybody here, I'm sure folks who are watching online know the extent to which a lot of this feels all-consuming. And the reality is, it should feel all-consuming, because for a lot of people, this is life or death. I mean, I know folks here who are undocumented who are afraid to leave their house, and it just kills me to see that. And I know living in a city like Los Angeles, living in a city like New York, it is impossible not to be around those immigrant communities. And so going back to that question, in a job that feels scientifically engineered to just beat you down, where do you draw faith from?
Ice cream.
Tell you what, take it where you can get it,
I told you I don't drink. No, I rely a lot on my faith. The hallelujah section over here. I am a woman of faith, and I have always believed that faith and fear cannot share the same space. And so every Sunday when I go to church, which is right across from where I live, it feeds my soul. And it strengthens me in my core. And it reminds me of why I do what I do. And so when I hear those sermons, I just get it. I'm empowered by it. It just, and I think about all of my ancestors and all the struggles that they went through, all the scars that they had to endure. This is nothing. This is nothing. We've been through a lot worse. And this is temporary. This is temporary. This too shall pass. Yes. And so the question is, you gotta keep that hope alive. That sounds corny, but it's true. You gotta do everything that you can to be with like-minded individuals. And never bow, never bend, never break, never capitulate, never give in, and never give up. And just stand up and use the law both as a sword and as a shield. And never cower to anybody, including a man who doesn't go to sleep at night. He puts on his pants one leg at a time, just like you. Listen, 7 million people, no King's Day. And thousands show up to events in my beloved Brooklyn, in my beloved New York. And this is, right now they feel that this is not their country. And they want it back. And they're prepared to fight for it. And I'm gonna fight right along with them.
Well, I would be a fool not to end it there. So I want to say, first and foremost, thank you to the team at Writer's Block, to Andrea and the rest of the team at Writer's Block for putting together this amazing event. Thank you to all of you who are here right now for taking time out of your busy schedules on a Thursday in an off year, for coming out, showing some support, and paying attention, being engaged, being involved. If everybody was like you, it would make our lives so much easier. And finally, thank you to the absolute fearless hero Attorney General from New York, Letitia James.